Questions under Standing Order 36. I must remark that Mr Humphreys is looking particularly comfortable in the leader's seat today. Deputy Mayor MacDonald, please.
Thank you. I'll refrain from comment on that, Ceann Comhairle. So welcome back, everybody, and Happy New Year. And that's good news, Ceann Comhairle, to start the year off on. Minister, in April 2021, a vulture fund was on course to buy up the majority of homes in Mullen Park, Maynooth. Do you remember that? You should, as it provoked widespread public anger. And at the time, your government said that it was unacceptable for investment funds to buy up homes from under the noses of ordinary buyers. Government said that they would sort it out. But here we are. In 2024, and investment funds continue to bulk buy family homes at the expense of workers and families. In Belcamp Manor in Dublin, it is a case of here we go again. A vulture fund has bought up 85% of the homes in that development. That is 46 of 54 homes. They now put these homes up for rent, charging upwards of €3,000 a month. So it's a real kick in the teeth for those who have scrimped and saved and sacrificed for years to buy a home. This isn't a once-off either, and government knows it. Up to March of last year, the Department of Finance revealed that investment funds had snapped up 630 homes in 2 years. And yet the Taoiseach acts surprised again, and he tells us that government will have to take a look at how the bulk purchase of Belcamp Manor happened. But he knows that this happened because of government policy. In 2020, your government actually voted down a Sinn Féin amendment to the finance bill to address this very issue. It was months later, in response to the public outcry over Mullen Park, that you introduced some measures. And at the time, you were warned that these measures were designed to fail. You were warned that you set a stamp duty that was too low to stop the vulture funds. You were warned that there were tens of thousands of homes already in the planning process and left at risk of being snapped up by investment funds. But government didn't listen, and this is exactly what's happening. Of course, you didn't touch the sweetheart financial arrangements afforded to these funds by Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil, which sees them pay no capital gains tax and not a single red cent on their obscene rental incomes. The truth is, government policy enables and encourages these funds. So we are well past the point of government looking at how this happened. You already know how and you know why. What we now need is action to stop it. Tuna crack histi ceannach tihi chowli gan sco, gan noira, o ibrithe agus chowli agus o gnoguini a howall gach laughing and kunchak a ceannach agus cahar stup a cur lesh loirach. Minister, in the midst of a housing crisis, people need a government on their side, not in the corner of wealthy vulture funds. Government had a choice in 2021 and you have a choice now. You can again choose to allow investment funds free rein to snap up family homes, or you can finally take real action to clip the wings of these vulture funds and put an end to this unacceptable practice. Sinn Féin brings a motion before the Dáil tonight to do exactly that. And my question is very simple, Minister. Will government support this?
Thank you, Deputy MacDonald. Minister, please.
And thank you, Deputy, for raising this. And just before I go into the answer, I just want to wish everybody a very happy and successful 2024. In 2021, the government took a number of actions, and that was to discourage significant purchases within housing estates by investment funds. A higher rate, 10% rate of stamp duty was introduced on the purchase of 10 or more houses in a 12-month period, and planning guidelines were issued to restrict the bulk buying of houses and duplexes. Section 28 guideline was issued to all the planning authorities, which aimed to prevent multiple homes being sold to a single buyer. Planning applications from May 2021 are subject to those restrictions. And I think it's important to say that since the introduction of those measures in 2021, the increased level of stamp duty has applied to 1% of the total new homes built. So it's quite a small percentage of the overall homes being built. I think the planning application for Belcamp Manor actually predated the new restrictions. But, I suppose the way to deal with all of this is increased supply in our housing stock, and we all agree on that. And indeed, I was in Dundalk on Monday past there, and can I just say the number of new housing developments there is unbelievable. There's thousands of new houses being built, and that is happening right across the country. 30,000 new homes built in the last year. The number of planning permissions is way up. The number of commencements is way up. Mortgage approvals are at a record high. 500 first-time buyers are drawing down their mortgages every single week. So the policies of this government are working. Now, compared to your own policies, like what do Sinn Féin want to do? You want to abolish the Help to Buy scheme, and that actually helped over 28,000 first-time buyers to get their keys last year, and you want to get rid of that. And now the latest is you want to bring house prices in Dublin down to €300,000. Now, I'm the Minister for Rural and Community Development, so how much do you think house prices outside of Dublin should be? Like, what price do you put on a house in Monaghan or Cavan or Donegal or Longford or Leitrim? So what is your policy? Is it everybody should be in negative equity? Because I'll tell you, I was talking to a farmer the other day, and his son is building a house on his own land. And he said he cannot build that house for 300,000. It won't happen, it can't happen, and that's getting the site for nothing. So if it can't be done in Monaghan, it can't be done in Dublin. And if you just look, the Society of Chartered Surveyors, they had a report out last year, and that said that the average cost of rebuilding a 4-bedroomed home was €384,000. So, and that includes, they already have the site because that's the cost of rebuilding it, obviously. And then a report from Goodbody's last night said that the number of new housing starts in the final 3 months of 2023 was 51% higher than the same period in 2022, and 33,000 houses were started in 2023. So we have the highest level of house building since the crash. There's more new developments springing up all over the country, and all the time we're seeing more and more houses coming on stream, and we know we have more to do, but can I just say the policy is working. And in terms of the issue you raised, it represents a very, very small portion of the houses so that we're talking about. In fact, 1%. So we're not snapping up homes for families.
So we know, Ceann Comhairle, and the Minister has reiterated the fact that Fine Gael and the government benches don't want housing to be affordable. There's no great surprise in that. And certainly your friend, our farming friend in Monaghan, and people beyond that know full well that if they ever had an expectation of homes being affordable on your watch, well, that expectation is truly dashed at this stage. There's no breaking news on that. Minister, I've raised with you a very specific issue. And the specific issue is this: despite your promises to the contrary, vulture funds continue to snap up family homes. And in Belcamp Manor, on the north side of this city, that meant 85% of a particular development snapped up and bought from under the noses of people who have saved really hard and who desperately want to put a roof over their heads. And I am simply asking you, having failed to thus far, I'm simply asking you to sort this out, because last time I heard you agreed with us that this was an unacceptable practice, so we wanted to stop. And in a bid to be helpful to the government, we are bringing forward a motion this evening with a solution to that problem, to stop the vultures. And it is simply a question to you again, Minister. Are you prepared to back that solution, to stop vulture funds snapping up these homes, and to allow hard-pressed people, families, and especially young people, a chance to actually buy their own home?
Deputy, thank you. We are allowing young people the opportunity to buy their own home. Approximately 500 new mortgages are drawn down each week, so the opportunity is there. We're creating more houses. They're coming on stream more and more all the time, and we can see that. Can I just say to you that the only way that we will achieve house prices at 300,000 that you're suggesting is that if we have a recession. That's the only way the house prices are going to come down. So I'm being absolutely realistic about all of this. And I'm telling the people the facts as it is. You cannot build a house for 300,000. That is it. And that's the fact of the matter. And there's no changing that. Now tell me, Deputy, I'll have to ask you one question. Would you build your house for 300,000? I couldn't. It's not possible to do it. So the best way is to increase supply and continue on what we're doing in terms of housing for all, and to get more houses on stream. It is happening and it will happen, and the proof of the pudding will always be in the eating.
Thank
and it's
you,
happening.
Mr. Humphrey, please.
Gurmagad Ceann Comhairle, and Happy New Year to all in the House. Minister Humphreys, you and your government are presiding over an abject failure on housing. This failure is devastating, particularly for those 13,514 people, including 4,000 children, who are in homelessness. And that's a shameful record, a record figure and a shameful record. And the housing crisis is impacting also on the hundreds of thousands of young adults living out of childhood bedrooms, on the many thousands who are emigrating to Australia, to other countries every year to find homes of their own. And it's affecting the thousands of people, including people I meet in my constituency every week, who are stuck in a rental poverty trap, and who cannot now see themselves ever owning a home of their own. So your housing failure is also affecting other policies, other services that the state should and could be providing. Minister, we have a chronic shortage of teachers in our schools. We all know this. We have a chronic shortage of carers and educators in our childcare settings, a real difficulty in recruiting medical staff for our hospitals. And the reason, in large part, because so many people cannot afford to live anywhere near their workplace or anywhere within a reasonable distance. And of course, the abject failure in housing is also affecting other things too. It's affecting our response to the humanitarian challenge that we're facing because of the brutal war in Ukraine and because of the many wars and conflicts around the world which are forcing so many people to flee to our shores seeking refuge. Minister, we've always been a land of welcomes, a land from which so many of our own so-called unvetted males and females had to flee to find a better life in England and Australia and America and elsewhere. We know the Irish diaspora now exceeds our own population on this island by a factor of 10. So now that those seeking refuge from war or persecution are coming to our shores, we must offer a real welcome to them, just as we offer a welcome to those who come here to work, to share their experience and their expertise, who drive our buses, who work in our hospitals and who make our societies better. And the reality is, across Ireland, in the last 2 years since that invasion of Ukraine began, our communities have offered a welcome to the many thousand people who have fled here. Only in a small number of cases have we seen protests or opposition to new arrivals. And I do want to condemn outright the small number of very serious criminal actions we've seen committed even in recent weeks, as far as arson, but also violence, intimidation, assault and threats. And it's disappointing to see even government party elected officials undermining the welcome effort. I'm thinking of Mayo County Council's vote last night, for example. But Minister, the reality is there is no refugee crisis. It's wrong to characterise it in that way. We do have a housing crisis, and that is adding to the challenge of finding accommodation for our new arrivals. And Minister, you've said it yourself in response to the earlier question. The answer is we do need to build more homes. You said it. We need to increase the supply of our housing stock. And we're hearing it from families living in hotel rooms, renters facing eviction, parents desperate to see their young people staying here and not moving to Melbourne or Perth. So, Minister, why won't your government take on the necessary ambition and urgency to deliver the homes that you acknowledge are so badly needed? And why won't you adopt the credible targets for delivery of housing that we've heard just in the last week the construction industry stakeholders calling for? We've heard the SRI calling for it. Why won't your government adopt credible targets for delivery of housing?
Minister.
Thank you, Gurmaigut, and thank you, Deputy. The Housing for All target for this year is to build 33,450 new homes. And I do accept that there is a gap between the existing target and what's needed. And in the past, we didn't have the capacity to deliver, but that capacity is increasing all the time. We need to have an informed process in setting new targets. The Department of Housing are working with the ESRI on research which will inform the national and geographical needs based on our population growth. And we need to build more houses, but we need to build them in the right places. The Taoiseach, he wants our targets to be ambitious, and I think that's a good thing. The final figures for last year will probably show that around 33,000 new homes were built, but that's the highest since the crash. Construction began on over 3,400 homes last month alone, and that's a 90% increase year on year. So we're making substantial progress, but of course we do need to do more. Minister Darragh O'Brien is working day and night, I have to say, when it comes to increasing housing supply. And when he gets the research data, he's going to set out the revised targets. We're now seeing major housing developments all across the country. Planning permissions, commencements, mortgage approvals, and all of those indicators, they're all going in the right direction. A huge amount of work is being done to tackle vacant and derelict properties, and you have the vacant home grant of up to 70,000, and we know how extremely popular that is. I also, I see myself. You've seen houses that have been derelict for years and years and years. They're now being transformed into new homes for young people, breathing new life into our towns and villages and into our rural areas as well. It's a grant that's proving to be very popular, and I know more and more people are looking at renovating existing homes, especially in the towns where you have the services, so that certainly makes sense to do that. When we entered government in 2011, the problem was ghost estates and a huge negative equity. The sector, as we all know, was decimated. It has been built back up, there have been a lot of challenges in the interim. We have the challenge of Brexit, we had COVID, we had the war in Ukraine, we had inflation, and last year alone we saw the highest number of new builds since that crash. Government policies are working. We need to do more, accept that, and we will do more, and new targets will need to be based on data, as I said, and population growth. So more houses in the right places, and the SRI research is actually due out next month, and I know that Minister O'Brien will be bringing updated targets, and they will be announced shortly after he receives that report. And I have no doubt that they will be ambitious.
Thank you, Minister. Deputy Batchik.
Well, Minister, no amount of spin can hide the reality, which is that we're just not building enough houses. And I think your answer acknowledges that. And construction industry stakeholders themselves point out that without credible targets, we'll simply never meet the delivery that we need to do for our growing population. We've heard it from across industry over the weekend, the Construction Industry Federation confirming there's capacity and a need for 60,000 new builds per year. I've been hearing now from the Taoiseach for months that the Housing for All targets are too low and that they will be revised and updated. So I'm asking precisely, when will we see the new revised targets, and will they meet that really clear level of need? This time last year in Labour we called for 50,000 new builds per year, and we also pointed out that we will need to see 50,000 deep retrofit and refurbishments a year in order to address that vacancy and dereliction crisis that you mentioned. Those figures have been borne out by reports from the SRI, by calls from Sherry Fitzgerald, Dr. Ronan Lyons. How many times does government need to be told? Your targets are not credible currently, and we'll never meet the level of need that is out there until we adopt credible targets and until we see a housing plan from government that is sufficiently ambitious and sufficiently urgent to deliver the homes that our people so badly need.
Minister.
Thank you, and thank you, Deputy. We are exceeding our targets every year. Every year we're building more and more and more houses, and we will continue to do that. You do acknowledge that capacity was a problem. That has been built up. A lot of work has gone into upskilling, retraining young people into the construction sector. So it is working, and I said very clearly that Minister O'Brien is expecting the ESRI research, that they're expecting that report next month, and updated targets will be brought to government at that stage. And I have no doubt they will be ambitious, because we have exceeded. But there's no point last year setting a target that's unrealistic. We set targets, we have exceeded them, and it is our intention to be ambitious, because we all know we need more houses, and that's what this government is committed to doing, providing more houses so people can have their own home that they want to buy and live in.
Deputy Boyd Barrett.
Deputy Smith.
Oh, Deputy Breed Smith.
The new year, okay?
Congratulations.
And I want to put it up to you, Minister, and to the entire government, that the problems we've seen over the last few days in Roscrea and beyond are not the fault of asylum seekers, they're your fault. And I'm pointing the fingers at you because I really mean this. I am so angry, as is everybody, about the scenes of women and their children being frightened and bullied and harangued and harassed, and the scenes of violence that ensued from that, and them having to witness it. And why is it happening? It is not because they're a problem, it's because your government is a problem and previous governments are a problem. Precisely because your housing policy, your lack of delivery on public services has led the anger of ordinary people, whipped up by the lies and viciousness of the far right, the Nazi supporters who want to blame refugees and people of colour. They have directed that against asylum seekers instead of directing it against you and your policies. And the reason I'm doing this in such a vociferous way is because we have echoes of those Nazi supporters' lies in this chamber, and those echoes which come from rural independents and others across this House, which blame refugees for the problems that we have, actually do make a difference to how people think. And when people find that that is going on and is echoed by ministers and by deputies and others in this House, and now councillors, from Mayo right down to Kerry now, they're talking about, we're not dealing with you, we're not going to talk to you about refugees. And they're in your parties. Rein them in. Do not allow this happen. Rein in your councillors and do not allow them to pass motions that refuse to deal with the department on the question of refugees. But the sooner the better you get out of government, because until you do and unless you do, we're going to have the complication of people blaming refugees instead of blaming you. But I do want to put it up to other deputies, like Michael Larian, I'm going to say it to him, who boasts regularly about what he's achieved for North Tipperary. Why do you continually vote confidence in the government, vote against a ban on evictions? By doing that, you're supporting them who are implementing the policies where migrants and asylum seekers are being scapegoated. And I just want to say this, that it might sound like a bit of a leap, but every time you refuse to deal with the housing crisis, with the lack of public services, you add fuel to the fire. And I don't care how many nice liberal Fine Gaelers get on the Tonight Show and sound tough and hard on it. The reality is, it is your policies that are implementing the scapegoating of migrants. And instead of deputies talking about we're suffering from an invasion, the invasion we're suffering from is when Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael opened up this country to vulture funds, to real estate investment funds who are buying up housing estates, still 85% of them, and depriving ordinary teachers, nurses, doctors, people who provide services of the ability to set up roots in this country. All of that feeds into this migrant crisis, and until we get rid of those policies, i.e. you, Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, and your mudguards in the Greens, we're not going to make the difference.
Deputy, just before we proceed, Deputy, can I say I'm all in favour of very robust debate here, but it is not fair by any stretch of the imagination to equate any member of this House in any way with Nazism. Not in any way, not by any stretch of the imagination. And you diminish the appalling nature of what Nazism is to do so.
I'll have that debate with you again in County Cork, but I stand over my right to say that they echo the sympathies of Nazis.
You can say what you like.
Yeah, I can.
I'm simply pointing out the facts. Minister
They're not the facts. Thank you, Deputy. I think you're going down a dangerous road, but what I can say to you is, though, that the rise of the far-right ideology and anti-immigration sentiment in Ireland is worrying. And it's something that we have seen in other countries for many years, but it hasn't been an issue here. But that has unfortunately changed. But when you look ahead to 2024, the world is becoming a very scary place. And you look at what's going on in Gaza, you look at Putin's war in Ukraine, and you're going to have an election in America, which looks like it's going to be divisive in itself. Fanning the flames on all of this propaganda, misinformation and outright lies being spread on social media. And as a government, I accept that we do need to communicate better. I do accept that. But Deputy, you know as well as I do that cutting through the lies on social media is not easy. But there's an onus on every single one of us in this House to show leadership. And can I just say that, there's a lot of misinformation out there about immigration. And as a government, as I said earlier, we do need to communicate better. But it's incumbent on each and every one of us to do that as well. Migration has been good for Ireland, and I'm just going to give some information here. The social insurance contributions from foreign nationals, so that is the PRSI contributions, is $3 billion per annum. And over the past 10 years, it has amounted to $17 billion. And that's coming from the workers in our health service and the workers in our hospitality sector, the workers in our food processing plants and other key sectors. And that's helping us to pay for the pensioners in this country. It's helping us to pay for unemployment benefits. And, you'd wonder how some people can be at protests in the middle of the day when everyone else is working. So we have had to announce more work permits recently because we can't get the staff in certain sectors. Can I just say that what we're dealing with here as a government is an emergency situation. Over 107,000 Ukrainians have come here, and there is a growth in the number of people applying for international protection. The Ukrainian war is going on much longer than anticipated, unfortunately, and people are staying longer. We're transferring from an emergency situation to a plan that allows us to accommodate the people coming here and comply with our international obligations. We have a rules-based system. 800 people were deported last year. We have doubled the staff in the Department of Justice so we can get decisions faster on international protection applications. So the challenges we are responding to is happening right across Europe, and it's something that as a government we are committed to dealing with. We have dealt with other challenges, and indeed people on the opposition benches said we were doing the wrong thing at the time, and it turned out we were doing the right thing. So what I'm saying is there are challenges, we are dealing with them, and I know Minister O'Gorman is working extremely hard in his department.
Deputy Smith.
Just to repeat, I'm actually standing here to say that the far right are liars, that they're Nazi sympathisers, that they spread bile and lies about, first of all, single men, and then it extends to all refugees, the women and children who were terrified on those videos we saw the other day. So it's the far right that are spreading the lies, but they are Nazi sympathisers, and they do see racism as a tool to deflect against what's going on in society. But unfortunately, it's deflecting against your government and the problems that you have created. They say Ireland is full. Well, I tell you what Ireland is full of. Empty homes, 165,000 of them. And you've never dealt with that. And those empty homes are lying empty for a long, long time under successive governments of Fianna Fáil, backed up, Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil, sometimes backed up by other parties that go into coalition with them. It is your policies that are creating the problem. If it's not, then what you're saying to me is that ordinary people up and down this country who get sucked into that stuff are all baddies. I'm not saying that. I'm saying they're getting sucked in. Instead of deflecting it onto you, The likes of Michael Larry and Matty McGrath, they really cared about the people in North Tipperary, would be organising protests against the policies of Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael. They would not be voting against motions of no confidence. They would be voting to keep the eviction ban up, and they would be therefore providing services that would keep our nurses, doctors, vets, dentists, all of these young people we educate in the country, and deal with the lack of services in Roscrea and elsewhere.
Minister.
Deputy, you cannot blame the government for people carrying out violent actions. You can't do that. And can I just say, you should not conflate the two issues of housing and immigration. Ukrainians and international protection applicants are mainly being moved into hotels and large-scale type accommodation. They're not taking homes from Irish people. And you know, if that's the line you're trying to peddle, I have to say you're going down a very dangerous road. As I said, we have taken a number of actions and we'll continue to work with communities. We'll continue to improve our communications, and Minister O'Gorman is coming forward with a plan in terms of providing more state accommodation for people who are coming into this country, and that should be with us in the next number of weeks. So there's a lot of things happening there, and we will continue to work on it. It is challenging. It's happening right across Europe. We're not on our own here, but we want to deal with it in a way that's rules-based, and that we show respect and meet our international obligations for the people that come to our shores, many of whom come from very, very difficult circumstances.
Thank you, Minister. Deputy Michael Lowry, on behalf of the regional group.
Count Corla, before I address the issue of Roscrea, could I first of all say that and put on the record of this House that I am not a racist, I am not anti-immigrant, and I have no record of provocative language either in this House or outside of the House. And can I also say to Deputy Spit, who happened to mention me on 3 occasions in a speech, that unlike her, I stand for something. In her position, she's against everything and for nothing. I'm in this House for 37 years because I've managed to support governments that have delivered for my constituency. That's my responsibility and obligation, and I have done that. So if I could, Count Corla, now address the issue of Roscrea. On 4 different occasions in the past year, I have raised the subject of immigration policy and lack of strategy. Each time I spoke in this chamber, I illustrated Roscrea as a classic example of a system that is not working. A town that was overburdened, overwhelmed, and in urgent need of vital services to be improved and supplemented. This government did not listen. You ignored the legitimate and genuine concerns of the people of Roscrea. The people of Roscrea are compassionate by nature. After assurances and enhanced support networks, they accepted, without protest, a direct provision centre with hundreds of asylum seekers, and also a centre to house 400 Ukrainian refugees. The reality is that this influx accounts for up to 20% now of the population of Roscrea. Therefore, any sensible, reasonable, logical or sustainable criteria, you would have to conclude that Roscrea had already exceeded its capacity. This government has failed Roscrea on immigration. You neglected to support this town in its time of greatest need. During all of last year, you dismissed my real and genuine concerns, and I can say today without fear that this government let down the people of Roscrea. The present unacceptable situation was avoidable had you listened, had you responded, and had you acted to address policing, educational, medical, social and recreational needs. We now have a flurry of activity in the last 48 hours, face-saving proposals after the damage has already been done. Your government, Minister, is on the run on immigration policy, and you're making it up as you go along. How many times have we heard from ministers in this House that there should be consultation and communication? In the case of Roscrea, there was no consultation, and with the current system, we are not getting consultation. We are not getting openness and transparency. What we are getting is deals done, contracts signed, shrouded in secrecy until the last minute. This alienates the local community and leads to suspicion and distrust. Roscrea, can I remind the members of this House, is a traditional rural town. Roscrea is a friendly, welcoming town. Its people have shown great generosity and kindness. It's a town with an excellent community spirit, a town that has coped with a lot of setbacks and adversity. It's a town that is fighting back through its community and voluntary leaders and organisations.
Thank you, Deputy.
I work closely with these groups, Count Corla. A lot of positive things are happening in Roscrea. Projects have been sanctioned which will bring enterprise jobs and stimulate the local economy. You, as Minister, under the Town and Village Renewal Scheme, have sanctioned and funded crucial revitalisation projects. And finally, can I say, Count Corla, it is rather ironic that while your department is assisting with the renewal of the town, another department of state has taken the extraordinary decision to take the only hotel in the town out of commission. How can that be acceptable for a department to be complicit in such action?
Minister.
And thank you, Deputy Lowry. I was actually listening to Michael Murray from North Tipperary Development Company on the radio this morning, and my Department of Rural and Community Development actually support their work. And when you listen to the work they're doing, they're helping Ukrainians, they're helping international protection applicants with training and employment supports. They set up a Roscrea welcome group. They're working with local residents to host coffee mornings and play days. And I think he said they have a special Ukrainian commemoration day coming up. Those community-led supports really can make such a difference in terms of allaying fears and concerns. And indeed, we all saw last night on the television where the women in Roscrea was bringing toys for the children that had arrived there. And I have to say, fair play to them. My department has invested over 7.8 million in Roscrea in recent years. I have a list of projects that we have supported: the Lions Club, the Roscrea Scouts Community Hall, the Roscrea Tennis Club. We have funded new walkways and greenways, and I know, Deputy, you've been in contact with me in relation to the REACH project in Roscrea, which will see the development of a new enterprise hub, as was Deputy Jackie Cahill as well. And the cost of that project, as we all know, has increased due to inflation. So I am pleased to inform you that I have approved that additional funding that was requested to enable that project to proceed. And I know that yourself and Deputy Cahill have been in contact with me on the project well before Christmas, and indeed back in the summer. It's a £3 million project overall, and it will make a big difference to the town in terms of job creation. In terms of what we're doing there, I know that we have been engaging in different parts of the country through the local development companies. In fact, I was at an event in my own county on Monday where the local development company is engaging with the Roma community. In fact, there's a large number of the Roma community living in Carrickmacross, and there's great work going on the ground there in terms of getting them to understand our norms and helping us to understand their cultures. And I think that that's something that needs to be done on the ground, and we shouldn't fear these people because they're here, they've come from very difficult circumstances, and many of them want to make a new life here and they want to take up employment. Can I just say that the Taoiseach has tasked ministers with developing proposals to support areas that have taken in large numbers of Ukrainians and international protection applicants. And as you know, I announced the 50 million last year for projects under the Community Recognition Fund. A lot of applications have come in under that. These will be facilities that will enhance the area that have experienced a huge increase in their population because of the accommodation of new people coming in. I'm engaging with the Minister for Public Expenditure in relation to funding a further round of that programme to support towns such as Roscrea, and I hope to have agreement on that shortly. So any proposals need to come from the ground up, from the local community in Roscrea, because it's the people on the ground who know what they need. And my department will work with Tipperary County Council on this. And I know there have been some initial discussions in relation to the idea of a community hotel, and the Slieve Bay Hotel in Monaghan has operated on a community-run basis for many years. It works extremely well, and I know Deputy Carthy is very familiar with the good work that goes on there.
Thank you, Minister.
That has been mentioned, and all I can say to you is that we're happy to work with Tipperary County Council on this as well. So, and just to say finally, my department did fund a town centre first plan in Roscrea, that's back some time ago, and one of the key recommendations in that plan was developed in collaboration with the local community.
Thank you,
and that was the redevelopment of one of the vacant hotels in the town.
Okay, we're way over time now. Deputy Lowry, please.
I welcome all and every initiative that can be taken to support and assist Roscrea and its people. And in my opening address, I complimented you on your commitment to the Roscrea and to the organisations within Roscrea, and I'm glad today to hear that the REACH project can now go forward. And as you are aware, I've been very active with your officials in successfully promoting other projects such as Gantley Street, Market Square development, and also the provision of a new Colashta public school for Roscrea. In relation to the hotel, I have to say it is comical politics to close one hotel and open another. And I have serious reservations about the practicality of the exercise. But in the interest of the town, I'm prepared to give it every consideration and discuss it locally with the council officials and with everybody else involved. But I think what we should look at also is the possibility of a private purchase of the hotel with the support of the grant aid from the department, so that we look at the two options, a privately purchased option supported by grant, and secondly then the community option. And finally, could I ask you, Minister, what proposals have you in relation to extra Gardaí, extra classrooms, extra teachers, extra doctors and dentists,
Thank you, Deputy. We're
recreational facilities?
Minister, to conclude.
Thank you. Well, I suppose it's fair to say that the system we have designed was for around 3,000–4,000 arrivals per year, and that was largely based on accommodation from private providers. So right now, due to a war, nobody foresaw a general increase in the applications that we have. So we are in an emergency situation. We have plans, and I know Minister O'Gorman is working on them, to acquire more state-provided accommodation, and also to look at where that needs to go in terms of maybe a more a fair or a broader distribution, let's say, across the country. The Taoiseach has asked each department to come forward with proposals as to what we need to do in areas that have experienced a higher than normal amount of international applicants or Ukrainian refugees, because I fully understand that people are concerned they might not be able to get a doctor's appointment. I understand, you know, the concerns that people have.
Thank you, Minister.
So each department will be coming forward with proposals to the Taoiseach in the next week or two, so we can deal with this issue.
Many thanks, Minister and Deputies. That concludes Leaders' Questions. We have a message from Select Committee. The Select Committee on Enterprise, Trade and